Hi, and welcome back to Ask a Monk. Today's question comes from Nachorochi. Hello, Yuttadhammo. How can meditation help me overcome an addiction to drugs and alcohol? I would really appreciate your answer. Thanks for your time. Well, I've gone over addiction before, but there are some specifics about drugs and alcohol, about physical addictions, that bear mentioning. Um, First of all, with any addiction, as I've said before, there are certain parts of the mind that come into play, or certain parts of reality, physical and mental, that come into play. The first one is the object of one's addiction. So in this case, we're talking about a physical substance. When you see it, or when you think about it, when you smell it, when you taste it, or so on. However, it touches you, because that's what's going to set off the memory of the bliss and the pleasure. Even though, it's like food. When you see the food, you don't get the taste of it, but yet your mouth starts salivating. So even before you take the drug or take the alcohol, you already have this craving for it just by seeing it. So, and that's important. That's going to be one of the first steps, or that's going to be one of the big steps in overcoming the addiction, is breaking that chain between seeing it and wanting it. If you can break it off there, then you can be said to really have cut the addiction off. The next thing is the next thing is the memory that comes from seeing it. You remember that this is your drug, this is your alcohol, and you remember how good it is, and so on. And then after that comes the happy feeling. After the happy feeling comes the liking. After the liking comes the wanting. After the wanting comes the chasing. So we can break each of these steps up and focus on any one of them, whichever one becomes clear, and they'll become clear. Different ones will become clear at different times. At sometimes it's going to be clear, the object is going to be clear, so we see the object. That's the first way to cut it off. Say to yourself, seeing. The then there's the memory, or the feeling, the happy feeling that comes from it. Thinking, oh yes, this is happy, or this is good, this is pleasurable. So saying to yourself, happy, and liking, the liking that comes from it, saying to yourself, liking, wanting, saying wanting, thinking about ways to get it, and so on. And even when you're taking the drug, and I've heard this helps with people who take cigarettes, even when you're smoking the cigarette, to be mindful, smoking, tasting, and so on, inhaling, or however, can help you to see the true nature of the addiction. And when you can break it all up like that, you actually teach your mind that there's really nothing really wonderful about this. There's nothing really attractive about the substance. And so this is theoretically how you do away with it. It does work to an extent, but with things like drugs and alcohol, I think there are other factors in play. First of all, the physical, or most of all, the physical addiction. Just like things with sensual desire or sexual desire, it's something that builds up in your brain, builds up in your body chemistry. So, for instance, with cigarettes, the nicotine builds up in the brain, and you have to realize that you're probably going to be hard pressed to do away with that. Um, the other important thing that we have to keep in mind, besides the meditation practice, as far as breaking it up into pieces and catching each piece and acknowledging this, seeing, or liking, one by one, is reminding yourself that these things are not you and are not yours, and have really nothing to do with you, because the addiction is going to come up. You're going to want the thing. You're going to have this intense desire for it that really wasn't wanted, wasn't expected. It comes. You don't know when it's going to come, and you can't control it. Realizing that not being able to control it is the essence of the addiction, that it's nothing to do with you. It's going to come up, not expecting it to go away, not trying to make it go away, not trying to find a trick to make it go away. You think of it like someone else's problem. And this is very much related to the meditation. This is what theoretically happens when you say to yourself, liking, liking, wanting, wanting, thinking, thinking, and so on. The problem is it's a fight between the two. On the one hand, we really want it. On the other hand, we really want to do away with it. So we have to as well remind ourselves that what we're seeing when we do this is the truth. When we say to ourselves, wanting, wanting, we see, oh my God, I can't, my gosh, I can't control it. It's too much for me. Realizing that that's the truth of it. Yeah, it's totally uncontrollable. It's not wrong that when you say to yourself, liking, liking, or wanting, wanting, or seeing, seeing, that you still end up wanting, and the wanting just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That's not a problem. What you have to do is see that that wanting doesn't mean anything. It has no inherent essence. It is just wanting. That's all it is. And it's not you, it's not yours, it's not under your control. One of the most important things in Buddhism is realizing this non-self, realizing that there's nothing inside of ourselves or in the world around us that we can really say is a self, is a soul, is I. Everything comes and goes. And when we can see like that, we don't cling to anything. There's no thought that I, me, mine, and we're able to float freely. We're able to be free. It's like if someone yells at you, they're yelling at pieces of experience. They're yelling at body. They're yelling at the mind. Who are they insulting? Are they insulting your hair? Are they insulting your skin, or so on? And the same goes with addiction. I mean, who is it that wants? Is it my hair that wants? Is it my skin that wants, or so on? Is it my brain that wants? I mean, these are all just pieces. They're all just physical and mental phenomena that arise and cease. And coming to see that that's all this is, not giving it power. I think that's one of the biggest things that comes from this, is that we're not giving power to it. When you remind yourself it is what it is, it is what it is, you say to yourself, liking, it is liking, it is liking, that's all it is, liking, liking, wanting, wanting, happy, happy, acknowledging the pleasure, is that you don't give it the power that it used to have. When we feel guilty about it, when we feel angry about it, when we try to find a way to overcome it, when we try to forget about it, try to divert our own attention away from it, and so on, we're giving it power. We're saying that this is something dangerous, this is something terrible, this is something big, this is a problem. Simply put, this is a problem. When we say to ourselves, this is this, it is what it is, we're letting it be what it is. When we feel happy because of the addiction, it brings us pleasure, we should acknowledge that pleasure and not feel guilty about it. Yes, it's pleasure. It is what it is. And then we can see that, yeah, it is what it is, but it's not really anything special. It just is pleasure. It comes and it goes just like everything else. And that should help. But as I said, alcohol and drugs, you have to realize it's something that can be very physical, and it's something that has to take a long time. Don't expect meditation to get rid of the addiction, but expect it to allow you to deal with the addiction to the point where you don't need to use the substance, even though you're still addicted. You're able to live with the addiction. You're able to live with the wanting, not having to chase after the wanting. So I hope that helps, and good luck. And keep the questions coming.